Hello. I wanted to start with this picture because, oh, now I'm missing. With all the love in the world, some of the images are always interesting to me. So there's an image. Let's go to another one. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me pull up another one. Hold on. There's another one. All right, let me make myself big. This is going to be my version of a recap. I have to figure out what I'm going to post on TikTok and on my other platforms because I'm not doing the recap the way I typically do. I'm doing a live one because I'm not a lawyer, but I am in New York City to attend the Diddy trial live and in person. So I got back a couple hours ago, actually. Now I did a live with my Patreon and gave them some of my tea. So if you want some of that, join the Patreon, because I told them some of the things that I just wouldn't say publicly, because typically I like to make my videos kind of sticking to the facts, but in there I kind of share a little bit more. So you can join the Patreon. I also have merch, so you can buy some of that. But I wanted to do a recap about what happened. So I think the best way to do it, because I do like to stick to the facts, is to use CNN as well as Inner City Press's tweets. And then I, of course, have my handy dandy notebook. I'm not a lawyer, but notebook with all of my notes. And so I kind of want to walk through what they all wrote happened, like, and then I can give a little bit more context from my perspective about it. So that's what we'll do. Yes, this is Gin Pop. We popping with the gin today. I'm in a hotel, so that's why, and I'm in a hotel in New York, and so the room is 2 feet big. So I'll adjust that so you don't see the bathroom. But thanks for joining. Let's get into what happened. David, the editor, is in India. Hello over there in India. Here we go. So I'm gonna start. Maybe I haven't even looked at what these outlets said. Oh, look, wait, hold on. There's one more I want to show you. Oh, that's gonna be a good one. Okay. So let's start with CNN's thing, just to kind of help us orient ourselves. And hopefully it's big enough. So Brian Steele, that's who you see right there, obviously. He did the cross-examination. He also did cross last week. He wasn't done. And so it continued today. I'm trying to make it a good okay. So he continued today, and that is Mia on the stand. Here's what I'm gonna start with. Mia came in with her head down, and I don't think lifted it at all the whole time. Like, she came in with her head down. And it is very, like, it grabs your attention, because I literally was like it is very noticeable. Hold on. My husband's here. So yeah, she comes in with her head down. She gets on the stand, and Brian Steele gets back up to start. And if you are familiar with YSL Brian Steele, you know how pleasant and polite. Hopefully, you guys can hear me too. My audio is not terrible, but you know how pleasant and polite he was. That's not the version of Brian Steele that, at least I feel like, we're getting in this trial, at least for this cross examination. It was no like pleasantries. It was like straight to business. So that was very interesting. Let me go back to this. So again, she is the former assistant. Oh, and then it also just talks about a couple people who are going to come next, but I'll just scroll up. Judges on the bench. Mia is back on the stand. And actually, before I even go into that, I wonder if Inner City Press talked about it, because before Mia got on the stand, they went back and forth about how much longer do you have on cross? I can't promise that. So they talked about kind of what he has left on Cross, and then oh, that's right, Garcia. So Garcia, Eddie Garcia is the hotel security guard from Intercontinental. He is going to be testifying, but he came in and pled the fifth. Well, he said he was going to plead the fifth, and so they gave him immunity. So that's kind of how the day started. The other thing I'll say, I was in the overflow room. Tomorrow I'm planning to be in the actual courtroom, but I was in the overflow room, and so you're shown a monitor, right? Like you get to see the courtroom from a monitor. So you see the tables for the attorney. So it's like the prosecutor's table, the defense attorney, the defense's table, the defense's table, and the defendant, Diddy, is sitting there. And then you also see the witness stand. I didn't even get to see the judge's face today. And I didn't even recognize Diddy. Somebody had to point him out to us because his entire head is white. Like those images that we've seen, that's what he looks like from the monitor. I'm going to be there tomorrow. That's my plan, to see him in person from the monitor. Those drawings are what he looks like. Completely white hair. Completely. Well, I mean, if you're in the courtroom, you see the judge. That's really what I mean. So very white hair, which was jarring for me. It didn't even look like the same person. So they have this back and forth with the security guard. He says he's going to plead the fifth. They give him immunity. And then there's some back and forth about, so they're going to have a video expert come on. And so they have this back and forth about the Intercontinental Hotel video, the one that we've seen a million times, right? Of Cassie and Diddy. We've seen it. They have this back and forth about it. And essentially there's the defense is having this issue because there's a version of the video that has been sped up by 30%. And the prosecutors are trying to show that, and they have this forensics expert to talk about like why it was sped up and what's happening and all of that. But the defense is saying that like when a video is sped up 30%, when he's running, he looks like he's running 30% faster. And if he is hitting her, it looks like it's 30%, stronger and faster. And so it makes him, even the lighting they talked about, saying that it makes him look more domineering. And so they had a lot of issues with that video. And so they don't want it admitted. And if they don't admit it, then they don't have to call these experts. And then the defense doesn't have to call their experts to combat what the prosecutors expert said. So it was a whole bunch. But that is kind of what happened in the morning. It was like this back and forth about this video. It wasn't resolved. They're going to keep going. So that was the first thing. And then, and the other thing I would say is being in person and watching on the monitor, he looked very upbeat. He looked happy. He was hugging people. I don't know if in my brain I expect someone who's been in jail for a year and could be sentenced to life in prison to not be upbeat, but he was. So take with that what you want. Okay. And then Mia is called to the stand. And this is the best representation of Mia because I'm telling you, her head was down the entire time. She did not look up. So that is what she looked like to me, even because her head was down literally the entire time. So Mia starts, and let me look at some of these screenshots just to see what people are saying. To see what people reported on, just to make sure I don't miss anything. That's right. Brian Steele started asking Mia, and let me put this up. He started asking Mia about her resume. Let me put it. Okay, and so those text messages will come into play, but it just says defense attorney Brian Steele is going through a resume of Mia's creating before she began working for the music mogul. The resume said she provided round-the-clock support to Mike Myers when she was his assistant, and still pointed out that on the resume, she said that she had thick skin. So he's kind of like asking her on your resume, did you say you had thick skin? And did you work 24 hours? And did you, it's a bunch of bullet points. She's admitted that she wanted to be in the entertainment industry, provided round the clock support, kept possession of personal items. And so what he gets out of that, and including passports. So one key thing that came out of this part about the resume is, if you recall, if you watch one of my recaps or have been monitoring any of the feeds, you know that on direct examination, Mia testified. Hopefully this is interesting. Am I doing this in a way that you're following? Let me know in the comments. If you recall, on direct, Mia testified that one time when they were on a boat, on a yacht, celebrating, I think, New Year's, she wanted to run away. And when she ran away, she realized that her passport was still on the boat. And I'm assuming the way it was presented, obviously I wasn't there and can only take from tweets, is that like he kept her passport, and that's why she couldn't get away, right? And so there's this idea that like he is preventing her from leaving. She can't leave the country because he has her passport. So the point Brian still brings up on the cross is, he said, when you traveled for, let's say, like Mike Myers, is it not common for an assistant, maybe somebody in your position, to basically take possession of all of the passports for everyone on a trip, to have them and then provide them, right, to customs or whoever? Because, and so your responsibility is to manage that. To which she says yes. And so I think, again, my perspective, it was a direct hit at the, when she was on the boat trying to leave the yacht, her passport was on the boat, as if he stole it. And Brian Steele is trying to say it's actually very common for one person to have possession of everyone's passport on a trip. The next thing I would say is, of course, the round the clock, support. The fact that with her previous, employment with Mike Myers, she's saying that she constantly did this. And so she put on her resume that this is the kind of work that she did and is used to and can continue to do. And so again, in that instance, Brian Steele is going at the fact that on direct examination, she said that she was working all these hours and it was like extensive and it was exhaustive, and yet on her resume, she's actually saying that these are the things that she does and can provide in a role. And so you're getting what you asked for, essentially, is how I took it. I'm not a lawyer. That's how I took it. And I'm not saying it's right. Just telling y'all what happened. And then he talked about the thick skin, that you're good with working on multitasking under pressure. She responded, I thought I had thick skin, which I was like, that's really interesting. She said she's accustomed to and comfortable. That's what she said. I'm accustomed to and comfortable with working 24/7. So again, he's like, you said you were comfortable with this work, and now you're acting as if it's like abusive in nature when it's what you said you did and do. I also have here a note that I like this judge. And so I'm going to interrupt here and tell you that I really enjoy this judge. I think that he is very efficient. He's very clear, and he makes his rulings quickly and he moves on. And so it makes the trial keep a pace. So that's really nice. And I'm going to show this. Oops. Let me show the file, because I think it actually kind of, nope, that's not even the one I wanted. Is it this one? It's this one. So, and then you see Brian Steele, and then Mr. Steele begins going, he calls up this binder. And so again, if you watch one of my recaps or kept up, you know that last week he referenced the binder. He had a binder with like all her Instagram posts. So it's the same binder. And in this binder, it's screenshots of text messages that she's had with Diddy. Okay. And so that's, you see the Merry Christmas, love you so much. Shout out to the artist for this drawing. Brian Steele then essentially goes in. I'm going to give you the context of what he was doing, how I took what he was doing, and then we'll go into what he actually did. he was discrediting her, attempting to discredit her claims of being traumatized by Diddy and everything that he did, abusing her, by going through text messages that she sent to Diddy after she stopped working for him. So if you recall, in March of 2017, right, a little bit before that, she's told that Revolt Films is ending. She worked under Revolt Films, so that means she had no job. She continued working on the documentary, but basically spring of 17, she was done working with Revolt. Like, it was the end of her relationship with that company and essentially with Diddy, okay? Brian still goes through messages that she sent him after that time that were sent essentially, I keep saying essentially, but like unprompted, right? And so the first one, that's that Merry Christmas. The first one that he calls up is a message from December 25th, Christmas Day of 2018. Remember, she left March of 17. We are talking a year and a half ish later. She texts him, Merry Christmas, I love you so much. He doesn't respond. And actually, it says, I love you so much. It was, I love you so, so much. And it was a bunch of exclamations. The artist got the exclamations. And then a week later, it's New Year's. So New Year's going into 2019, she says, Happy New Year's, always so much love to you. And then about 2 weeks later, she texts again saying, just thinking of you, had a nightmare. I was stuck on an elevator with R. Kelly and I screamed out for you and you saved me. Thanks for that. And so at that point, and I should reference one of Inner City Press's tweets because I'm sure he tweeted this. At that point, so she sends this text to Diddy saying that you saved me. And at this point in the questions, Brian still says, so to the person that you're afraid of, to the person who traumatized you, to the person who terrorized and assaulted you, you send him a text message that says, thank you for being my savior. And she's like, yes, basically. And I just want to see what he tweeted to line up. Yep, here it is right here. Let me pull it up so you guys can see it. I should go to CNN too because I'm curious how they worded it. So in here, so he's saying you left Mr. Combs's employment by March of 2017. Hopefully y'all can see that. Let me make it bigger. Okay. And then what did you write for Christmas? And she said, Merry Christmas, I love you. And the New Year's, I had just seen him at Christmas funeral. You reached out. And so he's saying you reached out to him? Absolutely. And then here you go. I wrote, I had a nightmare. I was being chased by R. Kelly and you saved me. And then he says, you're saying the person you say assaulted you saved you. Need to rephrase. Let me see how they did it because it was much more extensive, I think, than he probably was even able to articulate in tweets. But she said that prior to sending that in for Christmas, she said she had went to Kim Porter's funeral and saw him. So I'm assuming that she was saying that prompted her to send that Christmas message. And then she sent the New Year's one. And then she sent this R. Kelly message. And I just want to pull up CNN so you can see. Right. A few weeks later, on January 15th, she texts him. She was thinking about him because she had a nightmare. She was trapped in an elevator with R. Kelly and Combs saved her. And then after that, she sends another message, I think about 2 months later. Yeah, that's the March 2019. And again, she left in March of 17. So this is 2 years later. She says, sending you all the love in the world. And so at this point, Brian still starts saying, basically, Mia, at 2 years removed from the company, you were not under, the wording he used was grip. You were no longer under the grip of Diddy. You no longer had to check in with him. Like, you had been severed from him. And here you are reaching out to him. This is the point he's making. And so she says, psychologically, I still was. Psychologically, mentally, I was still there. And I still felt like I needed to do this. And so Brian still says, explain to me why you are reaching out to Diddy, saying with all the love sending you all the love in the world, when you literally have nothing to do with him at this point. He's just re-emphasizing this point. And so again, the whole point is to discredit anything that she's saying about him. Oh, he was so bad, when she was the one that was initiating contact. That's the point he's making. And then she sends more text messages. I'm going to put it back up because I think it really illustrates the point. And Brian still just is repetitive. You're reaching out to this person. You say he ruined your life. And so he says, without saying, because of the psychology behind it, literally he says, without saying psychology, tell me why you would continue reaching out to him when he has traumatized, abused, and assaulted you. And so she said, the version that treated me like I was his best friend, I love that dude. And at one point, he was the protector that would protect me from the other side of him. So that's essentially the text message part. He then goes on to asking her, because what she was articulating was, at the time that all of this was happening in 18, 19, or, well, she got laid off in 17. So before all of that happened, right? When she was working there and being abused, she was saying that she didn't know what was happening was bad, right? She was saying there was no one around to tell me that it was bad. All of the adults and all of the people in this space, nobody was calling him out and saying this is wrong. She also at one point during direct said that there was no Me Too movement that was happening to let you know about, what was happening. And so eventually Brian still calls up when the Me Too movement happened. Let me see if I can find that because I think I skipped it. So Me Too movement was, he says October. Actually, that's an interesting point because he said Me Too happened in October of 17. Okay, so I'll come back to that. Let me read the rest of this. She sends more text messages in December of 2019, sending you and the family love and prayers today. So he was asking her, why would you send that? And so she said it was actually Kim Porter's birthday. And so she was like, I was thinking of them because it was Kim Porter's birthday. I know that was hard. So that's why I sent that message. On December 31st, she sent a forward to him. It almost looked like a chain letter, but she said it was something about cancer that somebody sent to her that they wanted to get to Diddy. So she sent it to him. And the other thing I will stop and say for context and full picture, a lot of the screenshots, hopefully you guys, I can get the exhibits. Many of them went unanswered. So many of her messages to Diddy's, a lot of the screenshots we're seeing on the screen were just blue because it was her contacting him and he was not responding. I don't know if that's a trick of the defense and the enemy where maybe they take out the responses. Although I would imagine if that was the case on redirect, the prosecutors would just add back in his messages. That didn't happen. So the way it appeared is that many of her messages that I'm just going through was her texting him unprompted and he was not responding to her. And then in May of 2020, so at this point, she's gone for 3 years. She said, this is when Andre Harrell passes. And she says, Puff, my heart is broken about Dre. I hope you know I love you so much. I will always be there for you. I adore you. Or maybe she said, I adore Dre. But so she sends that message after Andre Harrell passes. And then a couple months later, when Chadwick Boseman passed away, she said, she reached out to him and said, hey, I was thinking of you since I heard about Chadwick Boseman, because one time they went out for a role together, or they went out for the same role, but I guess Chadwick got the role. And so Diddy did something else. And so she was like, you've been on my mind. And so that time he responded because he didn't get the role. They ended up doing his own play. And so he was like, oh my gosh, I remember that. Basically, life is strange. If you still have the tape of that, send it to me. So that was the first response that he had sent to her. Then she sends another text. I was just going through my computer this week randomly, and I have so many videos of things I thought I lost. I'm going to buy a hard drive and toss them over, and I'll mail it to you. So she's just going up through a lot. She also made a scrapbook. If you watched again the previous recap, she made a scrapbook for him. And the scrapbook was, from what I understood today, she made a handwritten, like made scrapbook of all the times he had been mentioned in press and like put it in a book, like this very extensive work, it seemed like, and gave it to him. And when she was texting, I've been thinking about you so much and feeling your pain. And just so you know, I love you with all my heart and I'm still here for you forever. I have random notes in my phone of stuff that says funny shit Puff said. The only, and so she references this video that she had. And so he says, oh my gosh, we should find that. And she was like, oh, I guess or a picture. It was something, but she put it in the scrapbook. And so Diddy says, we should find that. And so she says, it's in the scrapbook, but if you don't have it, I can remake it for you. And so Brian Steele is like, that you were going to remake the scrapbook? And she essentially says, yes. Which was interesting because it just seemed like a lot of extensive work. And then moving on, Brian Steele basically is like, so you recorded a lot of videos. You just told him that you have a notes in your phone of funny stuff that he said. You have all these texts. Do you have any footage anywhere, any kind of evidence that supports your claims that he abused you or assaulted you? Did you ever tell anyone, which don't get into delayed disclosure and all of that, but did you ever tell anyone in a text? Did you ever write down the date that's, an assault happened or something that he did to you? Do you have anything that would show the documentation of him doing anything, the way that you have documented, the way that you made a scrapbook, the way that you have done all of this stuff? Did you do it for the assaults or the abuse or how he traumatized you? Do you have any of that? And she essentially says no. Yeah. So it was a lot of time spent on text. A lot of the morning was spent on text messages. And things that she sent to him. We're talking about, sorry, I've been going for a while and haven't like revisited or looked at you guys' messages. We are talking about Mia, who took the stand today in the day 14 of Diddy trial. I am in New York. So I attended the trial. I was in the Overflow room, not in the actual courthouse. I was not in the actual courtroom. I was in the courthouse. I was in the Overflow room. So I was watching via a monitor. But there's a camera that's directly on the witness, so I saw her clearly. And then the other camera is positioned towards the defense and the prosecutor's tables. So I saw it would look like Diddy, but I tell you, he looks very, very different from what I'm used to. So I'm looking forward to attending the trial tomorrow in person in the main courtroom. In hopes of actually seeing him with my own eyes versus on a monitor, because he just looked very different. So anyway, I'm just going over, this is my version of the recap since I went in person. This is my version of what happened today in the trial, day 14. It's a little bit longer than I usually do, right? But I hope that's all right. And so at one point, Brian Steele said, it's not true that you were assaulted by him. It's not true that this stuff happened, is what he says. He kind of says it directly and outright. Like he calls her a liar, essentially. She says, I've never lied in this courtroom and I never will lie in this courtroom. Everything that I said is true. There's also a text message where she had reached out to Diddy saying, love you, miss you, think you're amazing. The same kind of tone that she had been sending before. Diddy responded saying, I only remember the good times. And then Mia responded saying, love you too. I guess he said love you in that message. And she said, love you too. The only things to remember are the good times. And those are the only memories I have. And so Brian Steele was like, if he did all this stuff to you, and this is, in 2020 by this point, if he traumatized you, if he, assaulted you, and he said, I only remember the good times, why would you respond saying there's only good times to remember when there's clearly bad times, is essentially what he was getting at. And she just kind of went back to the psychology of it all, the abuse of it all. She was under his spell. Yeah. And she said she said I was still brainwashed by Puff. And he's like, even after all this time, like, you had been removed from the company for 3 years. You were not required by any means to do anything for him. And so she said she said I was still brainwashed and he bamboozled me. Um, and she said, I felt horribly about going to mediation. If you recall, she tried to, after she was let go, she tried to have a settlement for 10 million. She ended up getting 200,000. She said she felt really bad about doing that. And she felt like she had done something wrong. And so she was still trying to maintain this relationship to seek approval for him. Then he went into when Diddy texted her after Cassie found out, when Cassie was in South Africa and found out the video of Diddy and Gina, and he was texting Mia, and he said at one point in the text message, I'm going to tell Cassie everything. And what Mia said under direct examination was she felt like he was going to tell Cassie that they had had sex and it was consensual, when according to her, it was not consensual, it was assault. And so Brian Steele says, why wouldn't you be, if he was going to tell this, like, why wouldn't you be happy? Because it can be out and you can tell your version of the events as well. And I don't even know what her response to that was, honestly, but that's a point he brought up. Another text from April. Hey, Puff, thinking about you forever. And as always, just wanted to send you the biggest gust of love and happiness and thankfulness for coming to my hometown and changing the dynamic of what happens here. It was during like a festival they were having and making it about a festival of love and togetherness. You guys get the point. I'm not going to go through all the messages. You get the point. When he had a documentary that was on the top 10 on Netflix, she texted him, congrats on, having top 10 doc on Netflix. He said, love, love, love. And then she said, love, love, love you. So it was a lot. The other thing that happened is, like I said, Mia was on the stand with her head down and did not lift it. Okay. She did not lift her head. That's no exaggeration. Brian Steele was arguing that there's a video of her saying happy birthday to Puff, to Diddy, that he wanted to play for the jurors. And it's because, according to him, she has a different demeanor. And he's essentially saying the way she's behaving on this stand is an act. And so he wanted to show the jurors that this is an act. This is not how she typically is. And she's putting on a front. So that video gets played in the courtroom. It's a video of her saying happy birthday for his 44th birthday. It was put out on the internet. Actually, can I play it? It was put out, and is that bad? I wonder if he took it down. Y'all probably saw it, huh? Y'all watched it? Let me see. Because, and here's why I'm hesitant about doing it, because at the end of the day, what was learned is that that video was supposed to be redacted and it was not supposed to be shown to the public. So I don't want to perpetuate and add to, what was not supposed to be done. So I think I'm not going to. If you want to see it, it is very much available. You can literally look up Mia saying happy birthday to Diddy and you'll find it. You'll find it. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be. And I'm only not going to because, again, at the end of the day, it was said that it was supposed to be redacted. So then I felt bad because I'm like, girl, now you are all over the internet. And that came out this morning. They didn't say it was supposed to be redacted until 5:00. So just look it up. You'll see it. But also just understand the context was supposed to be showing her having a different demeanor. But what happens in the video is her wishing him a happy birthday. And thank you for being like an inspiration to me. Let's f shit up. And then she says revolt at the end. So what is later learned is, according to her, that video is not just like her being happy and sending him a video on redirect. What comes out is, she says, that video, I said revolt, and it had like a hydration water bottle or something in there, and that's because Diddy owned part of that company. So she was like, that was work. Like, that was actually a promotion video that I was required to do. And when you don't do the work you're required to from Diddy, he abuses you, he assaults you, and he threatens your job. So yes, I made the video, not because I wanted to wish him a happy birthday, because that was actually for work. It was promotion. So, but that's a little bit of the context behind that video. Like I said, you can, if you want to look at it, you can Google it. And then she talks about how surprised she was that she was let go and how sad she was about it. And again, he kind of reiterates what he did last week, which is, why would you be sad when you're getting away from the person that you say abused you and assaulted you? Like, why would you be sad about that? You should be happy. And then another thing that I thought was interesting is Brian still talks about Cassie's career. And again, this is kind of like another context moment. What he was doing, in my opinion, the point of this line of questions was to counter the idea that Cassie was like so restricted and under Diddy's control that she could not do anything else. He prevented her, right? A part of the coercion charge, right, and the claim is that he would threaten to either release her tapes, freak off tapes, and or he would prevent her from making music or being able to make music videos or go in the studio. He was like using that as a threatening tactic to get her to do what he wanted. And so what Brian Steele does to counter that is go through songs I had never heard of. To be fair, I think I only really know Me and You by Cassie. And me, somebody was outside playing that outside the courthouse, by the way. He goes through songs that Cassie apparently put out, again, that I had never heard of. The Boys featuring Nicki Minaj, Official Girl, Paradise. She had a mixtape. A song called, it was either None or Numb, I don't know, but it featured Rick Ross. I Know What You Want, I Love It featured Fabulous. She went on the Bad Boy reunion tour. She did Love a Loser. She was in the studio with Kid Cudi. She worked with French Montana, Wiz Khalifa. She was doing photo shoots. She worked with G-Eazy. She was doing her modeling opportunities. She was in 2 movies, A Perfect Match and Honey 3. And so he's essentially going through work that she was doing while she was with Diddy in an attempt, in my opinion, to show that she was not under this like lock and key. She was not under this massive control. She was not only doing freak offs, she was actually still having a life. So again, to show that she had free will, she had agency, and she was doing what she wanted. So yeah, he did that as well. Oh, and then, yeah, to the point I'm making, he also says that she attended film festivals. She went to the Met Gala. She went to Paris Fashion Week. She attended Grammy Award events. Then he said she attended the VMAs. And then Mia was like, the VMAs? It was really cute. He said VMAs. But anyway, and so he says, and all of this was done with the knowledge and consent of Diddy, and it was to help promote Cassie. All of this was done and with the knowledge and consent for that. So again, to show that he was letting her do what she wanted. And then moving on. She did not want. You never contacted law enforcement. Oh, he talks about the law enforcement thing. How come you never contacted law enforcement? How come you never, it's a bit of a stretch, but how come you never called them anonymously? How come you never got a third party to call for you? How come you never went to a shelter? You never did any of the things that were like options or available to you if he was like abusing you and this situation was so bad. And instead, you continued to work for him. And then when you left, you stayed in contact with him and continued to remain in contact with him. And then he emphasizes that and all of the time of you claiming that he was abusive and traumatizing to you, everything we can find, whether it's a text message, whether it's a post on social media, whether it's an email, everything that is accessible from you about Diddy is all positive. It is all statements of adoration. And then she was like love and laughter, and she says yes, of course that's what it was, but he's making the point that there's no shred of evidence at all that exists that he did these things to you. And instead, everything that we have is actually of the opposite. And then he talks about like, she never made these claims of sexual assault until after Diddy's, Cassie's lawsuit and like much later. So of course he's getting at that you like made it up. All right. He hinted at that she plans to sue him, like file another kind of lawsuit. He was hinting at that. On redirect, the prosecutors said that that's not true, basically, and she said that's not true. But for some reason, Brian Steele has reason to believe, that he has a good faith belief that for some reason he believes she's gonna sue. But she said that's not even a real thing. It's not happening. So that was essentially her testimony. There was again some redirect that I kind of threw in as I was walking through this. Her saying that birthday video that you can find was really just for promotion. And then she talked about social media is really just about positivity. You're not about to, the prosecutor actually made a good point where they said, you didn't post about him assaulting you and, doing all of that, but you also didn't post about the time that he slammed Cassie's head into a bed frame and you witnessed that too. And you didn't post about that. And you also didn't post some of the other things, right, that like she knew about. So the prosecutor asked her, why would you go out of your way to keep Diddy happy? Why would you be doing all of these things to try to keep the peace? And she said, because when he's happy, I'm safe. The prosecutor asked about the way Brian Steele worded her sexual assault. It happened on his birthday. And so he was saying it's the anniversary of your sexual assault. And she was like, I never considered it the anniversary of, I consider it his birthday. So the prosecutor was like, why would you not consider it that? And she said, because I never wanted to think about that again. And also I had to keep it moving. Puff basically taught me, you got to keep it moving. So yeah. She said she felt like she could never leave her job. And that's essentially, have you ever been, and then the last question that the prosecutor asks is, have you ever been able to talk about what Diddy did to you without looking down? Because remember, I'm telling you, her head was down. She did not lift it up. And her answer to that is no, because it's the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And so that's essentially, that was all day. It was supposed to end much sooner. Brian Steele said he expected to not go beyond lunch, and he went well beyond. It was the whole day. My cousin's in here. Hey, cuz. After that, it was a very quick witness, Sylvia Oken. She works at the Beverly Hills Hotel, and she talks about basically guest profiles and how she handled all entertainment companies and guests and people. And so she handled Diddy's account, basically his profile. He had a profile at Beverly Hills Hotel. The name he used was Philip Pines. He also used Frank Black, but Philip Pines is the most recent name that he used. She went through some of the things that he was charged for. He would ask doormen to get him candles. He had some telephone charges. He had a charge for deep cleaning of drapes. So they're just kind of doubling down on, these events that were happening at the hotels and how long they lasted. So that was the day. Eddie Garcia is supposed to be next. Eddie Garcia, again, is from the Intercontinental Hotel. He's the one who asked for immunity. He's next. After him is Frank Piazza. He is a video forensic expert. So I'm assuming this is going to be again about the video and how it's been sped up or slowed down. He gonna talk. Then there's Derek Ferguson, who seems to be the chief operating officer of Diddy's companies. And if you recall, when Mia was testifying, she said that the chief operating officer is the one who told her that Revolt Films was ending. So it seems like this guy may have been the person who told her that. So he is also on the list to testify. Then there is Brianna. It's Brianna Braylon or Brianna. Let me tell you what it is. Bongolan. Bongolan? It's like Banna. Anyway, her name is Brianna. She's going to be testifying. Context here, because people on the internet be lying. The person who Diddy held over the balcony is not Wale. Don't let the people tell you that it's Wale, because it's not Wale. It's Brianna. It's Brianna. Brianna is actually suing him. She has a lawsuit, civil lawsuit against Diddy, and that is included in that lawsuit. It's not Wale. Okay? So if somebody tell you that, tell them you lie, you wrong, because it's Brianna. So she's going to be called to the stand. I'm assuming she's going to tell us this balcony story. And then the last person that they said at the very end of the day, I almost missed it because I almost walked out. There is a person going by the pseudonym Jane, i.e. Jane Doe. I don't know, so don't go quoting me. Don't go acting like I'm talking about Wale on the balcony. I don't know. The person who is supposed to be called by the end of Wednesday or early Thursday is a Jane Doe. What I'm wondering is if this Jane Doe is victim number 2. So there are 4 victims listed in this indictment. Victim 1 is Cassie. He has a charge for sex trafficking for Cassie. He has a charge for transportation to engage in prostitution for Cassie, okay? He has those same 2 charges for victim number 2. No one I know of knows who victim number 2 is. I'm wondering if this Jane Doe that's coming at the end of this week, I don't know, I could be wrong. I'm wondering if it's Jane Doe, who he has also like specific charges for. Victim 3 is Gina, who prosecutors have said they can't contact anymore, and she's not going to be testifying. Okay, so we got victim 3 is Gina. She didn't win ghosts. Victim 4 was Mia. He doesn't have specific charges for Mia or for Gina. He doesn't have the same way he has for Cassie and this victim 2. He doesn't have that. They're just mentioned in the indictment. So I don't know if Jane Doe that's coming is victim number 2, but we'll see, because I'll still be in town for it. And with that, that's my recap. That was very long. I don't know how I'm going to put this on any other platform. Anything I can answer before I get out of here and eat some food and take a nap? How did you guys think about that? What did you think of it? Was it fine? It's a little less than an hour. You know, my videos are usually 20 minutes or so. Is it true you guys accidentally saw who AKA Mia was? It wasn't accidental. She's on the stand. She doesn't wear like a mask or anything. She's on the stand. So we could see her just fine. She just was not, that video was not supposed to be released because now it's on the internet. Do you think she was a good witness for the, I like to reserve my opinions about how things are going. What I also didn't get to see the jurors. So I'm hoping tomorrow when I'm in there, I can actually see the jurors. I don't know if she was a good witness for the prosecution. I guess if I'm saying I don't know, that may mean she's not, right? Because that should be an easier answer. What I heard today from people, this was my first day there. What I heard from people who have been there is that Mia's direct was really strong. And when you were watching her direct live, like she was really believable and you really like had the same conviction, like you felt for her. And some of those same people said that this direct has destroyed what was done on direct. Again, I don't have the perspective because I didn't get to watch it in person and like actually be able to have an opinion. So I don't know. But people who have been there said that they felt like this direct made her, I mean, this cross made her lose her credibility. And mainly because of the continuous reaching out after she left. I'm not getting into the specifics of victims and the psychology of victims. I'm not going to get into that. I'm not a psychologist, um, but a lot of people had a lot of things to say. So no, I could not see the jury because I was in the. I saw that. Here's what I saw them walk past, so I got to see the race of some of them. I saw them walk past the camera, but I didn't get to actually see them as testimony was going and like see if they're reacting or see. I didn't get to see any of that. I just literally saw them walking past the camera as they were headed to the box. But that's it. Yes, Okin was today. Yep, she was the last witness of the day, the Beverly Hills Hotel one. She was the Beverly Hills who just talked about his profile, how many, some of the times he stayed there, what his American Express was charged for. There was a phone number listed that said it was his number, and I wrote it down. I might call it and block my number and call it later. I just want to know what's going to happen if I call it. Someone else said, here's what someone else said, if you are a YSL fan. Someone I was talking to was like, Brian Steele should be the lead attorney on this case. Nicole Westmoreland should also be one of the leads, and everybody else could go. I said, that's your opinion. I haven't been there, so I don't know that opinion. I don't have an opinion, but they were saying the crosses that Brian Steele, particularly this cross, they were like, this has been the best cross I've seen for this trial. Brian was not the very pleasant Brian Steele that showed up in YSL who greeted everybody, and that's not the energy he brought today. And they were like, in Nicole Westmoreland's cross that she did with Dawn, they were saying that they are killing it as far as attorneys on his side. That's what was being said. I thought the prosecution also was good. So it wasn't Sylvia. I promise. It wasn't Sylvia. I saw Sylvia and I saw Dennis Byron, and they were very kind to me. They are so kind and like, look out. So I'm appreciative of that. Now, don't call that number. You got to be on the stand. Not on victim number 5. Wait, I'm not laughing. Don't get me in trouble. Say it was a butt dial. Come on, Carrie. That's funny. All right. So that could definitely be the case. I will have to answer this tomorrow because, again, I was in the overflow room. I wasn't in the actual courtroom. So I can't tell you like if it felt tense or anything like that. I will tell you the overflow room is like overflow church. So it's very laxed. Okay, it's on a monitor. The kids are running around. The people are talking. Everybody's lollygagging. They're eating. It's much more laxed. So it's not. It doesn't feel like the intensity of like a main courtroom. It does not. I have sat in the. I've sat in an overflow room for Dirk's first detention hearing. His first detention hearing in LA. I sat in the overflow room because it was so many people, and even then, it's just more laxed. Versus like I've been in the courtroom for Dirk's for a hearing for him, and it's more serious, right? Like you feel the difference. So I'll be able to talk more about that hopefully tomorrow when I have to get up very early to get outside and get in line. Okay. Anything, if you in New York for the weekend, be careful. The weather is nice. We the people will not be. Sounds like they were dating. They were not together, and I'm not gonna do that. No, I do not want to be no exhibits in this trial. Okay, I think I have everything. Um, I, I need to see. I need to make sure that we can talk about the demo of the jurors. I'm not sure if that's, and I ain't trying to be in trouble. I'll let y'all. And also, I didn't get to see all of them. I saw them walk past, so I noticed a couple of their what appears to be their race or ethnicities. Um, but I need to make sure I can say that before I be in trouble and be in front of that judge, because that judge don't seem like he play. No, you cannot bring your electronics inside. They, as you enter into the court, before you even, like, you go into the courthouse through the doors and then security is right there, they take your stuff and put it in a cubby and give you a little number, a coin. If you, whether we talking laptop, iPad, cell phone, they take, put in a cubby, and they send you on your way with your notebook and your pen. And when you are done, you give them your little coin back and they give you your stuff back. You cannot have any electronics in there. They are not playing. Oh, gender breakdown is 8 men, 4 women. There were a ton of content creators out here. Obviously, a ton of press, but a ton of content creators, which is really cool to see people covering it like on their phones with their tripods and their phones, and they live. It's nice because sometimes this can feel a little bit overwhelming, especially as like a newer-ish creator and like trying to navigate and figure it out. But when you see people making content the way you do, it just makes you feel like it's okay to do it. So you're out there like, hey, so it makes you feel a little bit better, and it makes it less awkward. So yeah, there's a ton of people out here. All right. I am going to go eat because I'm hungry. And I will hopefully be back tomorrow. I have to figure out how I can make recaps on my other platforms, because people who aren't over here are not going to see this. But appreciate y'all. Thank y'all. I'll be back. Make sure you're subscribed. I didn't turn on my subscribe thing. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel. If you are not and you was in here kikiing it up, subscribe to the channel. Appreciate you for doing that. Let's do it tomorrow. Have a good night. Bye.